So what we're going to talk about here is adding some shading, some value to our picture. Over the last week, you worked with either an ebony pencil, which is that silver pencil, or a sketching pencil, which is black. It also has a 6B. That refers to the level of hardness or softness of the lead, and also how dark of a value you can achieve with that pencil. Okay, so either one of those will work fine for what we're doing. What we're going to begin doing, using our black and white photograph to help us translate the color, which was in our original photograph, to grayscale. We're now going to begin filling in the values on our picture. Now, the challenge here is because that lead is so soft, it likes to move around on the paper. It likes to migrate. The majority of students, they want to dive in first to the darkest values because it feels productive and it feels like, oh, I know what to do there. But here's what I would recommend. Don't do it. Why? Well, because that soft lead, can I get everyone's ears and eyes? Thank you. That soft lead is going to want to move around on you. And how many of you have gotten done drawing before and your hand's all dirty from dragging it through the drawing? You're going to have that in a major way with this drawing. That's okay. We can clean it up. When you're done drawing, you can go wash your hands. But you do want to avoid doing your darkest darks till closer to the end because it's going to turn into a big muddy mess on you if you're not careful. Okay? So let me just kind of dive in here. I'm going to show you how some of what I have here is translating over here. I want to start with the medium to light grays. So I've already started on the back here of this horse. What you'll notice is that the light areas, like the horse's mane, are actually defined by the shading in and around them. So this is one of those times where negative space helps to communicate the story. Okay? So the negative space is what tells us where those areas are light. The nice thing about the sketching pencils and the ebony pencils is that you can really hardly apply any pressure and you're going to get some value laid down. A nice circular soft motion for smooth areas would be appropriate. And don't get too concerned if you see some of the white of the paper showing through, because that's one of the other fun things about working with a soft leaded pencil. We can now go in, even just using our finger, and kind of blend that in and fill in some of those little white spaces. Okay? Now, what do we do when we have two areas that are similar in their value? Like this horse and this horse are pretty similar. So what I want to focus on is texture. So in this case, do you see how I've drawn very defined lines to emulate the texture of the horse's mane? And then also I want to ask myself, even though they're similar, is one edge darker than another? If so, I want to make sure I define that edge. Okay? So anytime I can make one area stand out next to another, that's a good thing. We don't want this thing to all bleed into itself and just become, like I said, this muddy mess. Okay? Now, along the way, you are bound to, I'm just hopping around right now looking for those medium tones in case you were wondering. But you're bound to run into some places where you get value somewhere you don't want it to be. Like you blended it and you're like, oh, that's supposed to be a light area. Don't panic because this type of lead cleans up really easily. Now, I really wouldn't normally do this till closer to the end because you're just going to smear it again, but I want you guys to see how we can really brighten up a space just by simply erasing it. So anytime we've got that gray kind of muddy mess happening, we just go in with an eraser and our eraser becomes our drawing tool. We can literally draw those lights in using our eraser, which is really fun. So don't jump to that immediately, but know that, you know, don't panic if you start feeling like, oh, this is getting too gray on me, okay? And really blowing on it like I've been doing is better than dragging your hand across it after you erase, for obvious reasons. Okay, so I would just continue hopping around, filling in those areas. I'm always looking back here to see how what I'm drawing is comparing in value to what is coming. You know, it's okay, I don't mind if a few times you're like, well, this is a dark spot, I'm gonna go ahead and make that dark. I'm just saying what you wouldn't wanna do is just immediately jump into this big dark pocket and color that in, because then you're just gonna be fighting that graphite the whole rest of the time, okay? Does that make sense to you guys?